The Joel Shit Show, featuring Joel Shit. Hi, and welcome to the Joel Shit Show. I'm your host, Joel Shit. So, today, Proposition 1E, which amends another proposition, just like how Prop 1D amended Prop 10 and 1B amended Prop 98. 1E is amending Prop 63. Amends Mental Health Services Act, Proposition 63 of 2004, to transfer funds for a 2-year period. Oh, this is the Mental Health Services Funding Temporary Reallocation helps balance state budget. For a 2-year period for mental health programs under that act to pay for mental health services for children and young adults provided through the Early and Periodic Screening, Diagnosis, and Treatment Program. Provides more than $225 million in flexible funding for mental health programs. Helps balance state budget during this difficult economic time. Summary of legislative analysts' estimate of net state and local government fiscal impact. State general fund savings of about $230 million annually for 2 years, 2009-2010 and 2010-2011, from redirecting a portion of Prop 63 funds to an existing state program in place of state general fund support. Corresponding reduction of funding available for Proposition 63 community mental health programs. So, similar to 1D, it's saying, here, we need that money that's supposed to be set aside for this because it's an emergency. We have no provision for an emergency, so we have to vote on it. And then we'll pay you back eventually. So, let's see, one of the authors of Proposition 63 is Senate President Pro Tempore Darrell Steinberg, who says when voters approved Proposition 63, he was the one who wrote it. And now, so the guy who wrote Prop 63 is also telling us to vote yes on Prop 1E. So the guy who wrote the thing to be in favor of creating this funding for health, for mental health, is now saying it's okay to vote yes on this to amend it. It's one of his proudest achievements. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people who have suffered from untreated and severe mental illness regain lives of meaning and dignity. He only wants to divert funds as a last resort to help the balance of state budget this year. Everyone has to give something. We all must share in the sacrifice. It will save this much money. Children served will continue to receive specialized care, so this will only hurt the adults. By doing this, it would reduce the magnitude of cuts that would otherwise have occurred in other state-funded programs. Voters overwhelmingly approved. Oh, so Prop 63, the money that was generated from Prop 63 for mental health programs, that money came from increasing income tax on individuals with incomes over $1 million by 1 percentage point. So if you made over $1 million a year, then you had to pay an extra percentage point in income tax just for mental health. However, so it is like 1D. So the issue with 1D is that there was over $2 billion sitting in a bank account not being used. And what Prop 1D was saying is, let's use some of that money. Prop 1E is saying the same thing. There's $2.5 billion just sitting around, which is more than needed, and it's probably best to spend it on Proposition 63. Right now, we might as well shift some of that funding to these other programs, and then that way we won't have to make as big a cuts for these other vital state services. Those are his words, vital state services. One-time redirection of funds. It's not a precedent, but it could be one. He doesn't say it won't be. He's just saying it should not be a precedent. It's very tempered what Darrell Steinberg is writing. He's like, I don't really want to do this, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So Lou Correa, who's also a state senator, he wrote the rebuttal. This is his butt. He says that it's an unprecedented budget deficit, and he respects the decisions that legislative leaders have to make. He doesn't agree to pass Proposition 1E. The amount of money this measure transfers to the state general fund is a small fraction of the state budget. That's very true. We're talking about $225 million next year, $234 million a year after that. The budget's like $140 billion. So you're talking about 2/5 of 1%. That's how much money, that's how much of the budget would come from this. So it's really not that much. Now, the thing I don't like about what Lou Correa is saying is, he's saying many children are benefiting from early intervention and treatment. That's fine. But the money that's being cut from this, if 1E passes, isn't affecting kids. Even more vital is the funding for prevention and early intervention. We shouldn't take money from the Mental Health Services Act that was approved by voters. These programs are helping hundreds of thousands of people. Let's keep the funding in place for our children and our future. So there's a disconnect here, because Steinberg is saying that there's money that's not being used that can be used for this just for now. And Mr. Correa here is saying, no, things will be cut if this is passed. So anyway, here's Correa's argument against Proposition 1E. Remember, that was his butt. Check out my butt. And then this is his actual argument against it. Not responding to anything. More than 200,000 people have received mental health services, including nearly 20,000 children, youth, adults, and older adults. To help them recover from severe mental illness, 40% of these individuals have had at least one emergency room visit before they enrolled in this program, after they participated fewer than 10%. So he's saying how the program works. He's saving the state. This is saving the state valuable money, resources, by reducing pressure on jails and prisons. What's the difference between a jail and a prison? You tell me. People, oh, I know, jail's like on the Andy Griffith Show, like that one guy that hangs out all the time, and the prison's like San Quentin. Got it. Reduce homelessness, hospitalization, out-of-home placement, school failure. So these programs are great. We need to preserve these. Please vote no. And then, again, the co-author of Prop 63, Steinberg, shows his butt. This is the rebuttal to argument against Proposition 1E. The opponents of 1E say that Proposition 63 is providing essential and effective services for hundreds of thousands of people living with mental illness who weren't receiving treatment for. He agrees. The Mental Health Services Act is changing lives, blah, blah, blah. But we're facing an unprecedented crisis, the budget deficit. We've made painful cuts to education, colleges, healthcare, transportation. Money will be redirected from the Mental Health Services Act to the state's early and periodic Screening, Diagnosis, and Treatment Program, EPSDT, which provides mental health services to children for the next 2 years. This will not reduce the level of Mental Health Services Act services currently being provided. The diversion should never happen again. Alright, so looking at this, I would have to say you gotta vote yes. Because if this money is sitting around not doing anything, and that's what it says in here, why don't we put it to use? This isn't part of the rainy day fund that the governor's been talking about. This is just other money hanging out. It's money that we're authorized to use, but we don't have anything to use it on. But shh, not so loud. If we call attention, that's the thing that worries me. If we call attention to the fact that there's money not being used, because this money's not in the general fund. This money is specifically earmarked for mental health services. But we don't need that much money right now. So, loan some out. How is this different than 1D? Remember, yesterday's like, oh, 1D is stupid. Well, you have to look at how these things are written. First of all, the argument in favor of 1E is written by the co-author of Prop 63. And that means a lot to me. Second of all, it's not clear that if 1D fails, if 1D passes, that first 5 is going to be protected. It's very clear that mental health services will be protected if 1E passes. And that's why I said no on 1D, yes on 1E. So far we've got yes on A, B, and E, and no on C and D. And tomorrow we'll talk about 1F. That's all the time we have for today. Visit us on the web at joelshitshow.com. Email joel@joelshitshow.com.